always taught my daughter, and still sticks to this day, is that it's okay to depend on a network of women that love you, because some of them have been there since day one of her life, and they have. They've been there in such a way that if they wouldn't have been there, that I might not be here. Though she was the result of an unplanned pregnancy, when I found out, I knew exactly when I got pregnant. I could pinpoint the moment. I was a hard-working, ambitious classroom teacher when I came face to face with the first tragedy of my pregnancy. I was decorating the classroom after hours. The floor was slippery. I stood up on a table to place some of the decorations up on the wall, and the next thing you know, I was on the floor hollering, hoping that someone would hear me. My kneecap popped backwards, and I screamed for 30 minutes before anyone would find me. I was shipped in the ambulance to the hospital. They gave me a Percocet when I first got there. They couldn't give me an x-ray because of the pregnancy. They tried to give me more pain medicine, but I wouldn't take it. I was diagnosed with a sprain, although I knew that it wasn't true. But it was pretty much like the doctors were just guessing, since I couldn't have an x-ray because of the pregnancy. I later found out that I had torn my ACL, bruised bones, and had a torn meniscus. For the most of the pregnancy, I had a brace, cane, crutches, and a wheelchair. Another tragedy of the pregnancy was happening in my home. I was living with an abusive partner, and the last place that I wanted or needed to be was confined to a bed or constantly at that house. And his abuse was escalating during this pregnancy. I started to go back to work. I got creative. I would drive using my cane to press down the gas, anything to get me out of that house. Unfortunately, my blood pressure was spiking. I can imagine dealing with the after effects of a horrible accident, being on bed rest, navigating the disability system, going back to work, and living with an abuser, all while being pregnant, was too much for my body to take. Close to the end of the pregnancy, I recall going to the doctor, and he told me that I needed to become a lady of leisure. Where? How? Who has time for leisure when you're literally fighting to survive? But my doctor, he didn't know what was going on in my home. I had not disclosed that information, and I didn't really have plans to at that point. So the doctor schedules her birth. I pick the day, and we go in that morning. They try to induce me. They put me on a Pitocin drip, and I'm also dealing with the stress of my baby's father, who insisted that he also bring his 3-year-old child to the hospital for the day of the delivery. This kid, who's not my child, is screaming. So he's also fuming, and that goes on all day long. There's no peace. My blood pressure is spiking, and they said, we will give you an epidural because the Pitocin isn't working. I'm cramping like shit, not dilating, and in severe pain. They give me the epidural, and my blood pressure goes out of control. So they move me up on the schedule because the blood pressure is so high. I don't respond well to anesthesia. I never have. And I let them know this. So they put me in the surgery theater. The drape was over me, so I cannot see what's happening. And they're doing the prep, and I'm like, am I supposed to feel anything? They were like, no, you won't feel anything from your rib cage down. I was like, okay, cool, but first of all, the epidural hurt. I felt that. And I really think I'm not supposed to be feeling anything. They said, no, you're not. You're not feeling anything. It's just a small tug. I felt the entire incision. But they can't stop once they start. I feel every single pull, tug, rip, everything. And it's so bad at this point that I'm narrating my own surgery. I'm like, oh my God, you just put the scalpel in. Oh my God, you're 3 inches in. Is this supposed to be hurting me? And they're telling me, calm down. So when they take the baby out, sweet Jesus, from what her father saw at the other end of the table, he said it looked like my entire body lifted up off of the table as they took the baby out of me. And keep in mind, I still didn't really have use of my right leg at this point. I felt her come out, and how do I explain it? It felt like someone slowly, inch by inch, ripping your intestines out. It was a 9-inch incision. They tried to staple me up and clean me up quickly, and I am in severe, debilitating pain. They put me in a room, and they said your blood pressure is so high that we don't want the baby crying to aggravate you. And I couldn't calm down because I needed my baby. I needed her with me. I needed to know that she was okay. So they finally gave her to me, but kept taking her back out. And I'm in a constant twilight stage. I'm in the hospital for 2 days. I can't sleep. I won't sleep. And about the end of the second day when I should go home, my mom asked if I had been to the bathroom. No, I haven't. She says, you need to go. And I pulled the sheet up, and my entire bottom half, from my belly button to my kneecaps, is covered in blood. So I see the blood, but I don't feel it. And the nurse comes in, I'm hemorrhaging. And I can look into my whole stomach. So they called the doctor in immediately. And when the doctor came in, they tried to squeeze everything back together. Right there in the room. And more blood is coming. I'm like, shit, I'm going to bleed to death. And in hindsight, I think he fucked up the staples in the first place, like when they did the initial birth, because he scheduled my C-section around his golf game. Like literally, he said that he scheduled it around his golf game. So 2 days later, when everything comes loose that you had slapped together in the first place, now it's all making sense. And right there in front of me, they start stapling me. All of the staples that they had originally used, gone, ripped. And it was horrifying. I could see where the staples had ripped through the skin, and they're literally stapling me right there in the room in front of me. And then, when he finally finishes, he stops and looks at me and says, well, guess you're never going to have a flat stomach again.
Oh, wow.
And you know, it somehow made it seem like I was the one who should be ashamed about what was happening about my body and who I was. They get me patched together, and I can tell the scar is going to be hellacious. And they never got it all the way closed. So they send me home with an open wound. They don't really give me any instructions on how to heal it. Just take care of it and she closed. So I went home, but my mom also was seeing what's going on with my daughter's father. And she stepped in and picked me up and took me home with her to her hometown. So I essentially fled to her city to get away from the violence, but the wound wasn't healing. So when I came to my next doctor's appointment, which was in Charlotte, of course the doctors were concerned because, you know, why aren't you getting any better? I get up the nerve to finally tell the doctor that I don't feel safe at home. And he kept saying, are you saying that you want to hurt your baby? No, I don't feel safe at home. I feel like he might hurt me or the baby. So we're going to give you a prescription for generic Prozac. And I didn't take it because I'm not depressed. I'm trying to be safe. How do I keep my baby safe? How do I keep myself safe? And I have this open wound. I didn't take the pills, but I'm also not allowed to lift the baby because of the incision, and I'm not healing. And they tell me we're going to have to send you an in-home nurse. Well, that in-home nurse was going to have to come to my home in Charlotte, couldn't come to the home in another county. So I go home. But something beautiful happens for the first time. I'm met with some relief when my daughter's great-grandmother comes to visit. She has experience in healthcare and is used to dealing with abdominal wounds. She also starts to realize the dynamics in the home, so she did a few things. First, she had me leak a little milk on my t-shirt, and she put it on a pillow, and then she put the baby on the pillow, and this would help me to feed her. She bought a kit with her to take care of my injury. She took care of my little bugger for me. And she took care of me. And she got him in check. She saw what he was doing and she said, "You're going to cut that shit out. You're going to cut it out right now." And for that time, he did. She got the baby under control. She got us on a schedule and she healed my wounds. For the first time, I got some healing. I got what I needed. And after she left, I continued to have support from my mom and my sister and other women. It was and always has been women, Black women. They have come when they were called on, and even when they weren't called on. They have stepped in and stepped up when the rest of the world has turned a blind eye or closed the doors on my pain. It is those women who are the inspiration behind what I've always taught my daughter, and what I hope she'll teach her daughter one day. It's okay to depend on a network of women that love you, because some of them have been there since day one of your life, and they are the ones that will always be.